Hi, I am Isis with Sistah Scifi. Welcome to Sistah Scifi Wind Down Wednesday, where I work really hard with a bunch of Black and Indigenous speculative fiction authors to make Wednesday your new favorite day of the week. Today we will be discussing King. It's the sequel to Everfair by Nisi Shawl. I sat down and I remembered to get my copy of King, but I did not remember to bring my copy of Everfair. But I do have copies to grab, which means one, we're back in stock with Everfair. Yay! And yeah, so that's that. Hey Erica, how are you? Okay. Hey Nisi, I'm trying to send you a join request, but you're grayed out for some reason. Here we go. Nisi is here. So yeah, if you see that, you can accept it and then we can start the conversation. So Erica, I responded to your text, so hopefully my answer is clear. My Wednesday has been good. I'm playing catch up, so in 2024, one of the Sistah Scifi initiatives for Sistah Scifi West Coast Book Tours. So we're organizing one for King, we're organizing one for Ghost Roast. So this weekend I was in Seattle and I came back and attended a conference. And then Tuesday I wasn't feeling well. So right now my Wednesday feels like Monday, but it's great. Has it? I mean, I guess it has grown long and I always feel like, I don't know. Like my hair should be doing something else, but I'm just excited for where it is right now. Okay. Nisi was not able to join. Yay! Okay. Nisi, can you, because we've done this before, if you don't see a join request, there should be on the bottom. So one, you have to be on your mobile phone, in the Instagram app. And then two, if you're on your mobile phone on the Instagram app, on the bottom of the screen, you should see a little camera. Oh, if you don't see a join request, there should be on the bottom. So one, you have to be on your mobile phone.
I am.
In the Instagram. Wait, is there also thing on your laptop? Perfect. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we did it before, many months ago, but I think I got it.
Yeah. You're here.
Okay.
Happy Wednesday. How are you? How are you doing?
Pretty good. My cat is very impatient with me right now. I'm not feeding her.
Oh, I don't know that much about cats, but
Well, they want to eat when they want to eat.
got it. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. It's not like you're not feeding her, but between meals, your cat between meals. So yes.
There's no such thing as between meals when you're a cat. It's all meals all the time.
Got it. Okay.
Anybody who has a cat can tell you that. It's always mealtime.
Got it. Okay.
I just gave her some nuggets. Let's see how that tides us over. But yeah, I'm wearing my cat hat, my space cat shirt, so I'm all catted out. How are you?
I'm good. Erica says you look good. Pip Ghost says poor Minnie. Is that your...
Yeah.
Okay. And people are like, yes, we understand that cats need to have a snack.
All the time.
Yes. Yeah, I'm good. I can't believe it's Wednesday. I was like, good morning, happy. And I was like, it's Wednesday. I'm like, dang, it's Wednesday already.
Yeah, and tomorrow it will be February.
I know. I'm like, I'm not ready. And I'm like, I'm just, yeah, I'm just grounded in the fact that I'm just not ready for it to be February, and it's coming anyway, so I just have to accept that. Yay.
Oh,
So,
look, it's Toby Ogundiran.
hi, Toby.
Toby the Dreamer, Toby Ogundiran. Yay!
So, okay, so let's start with, I already told people, it's Sister Sci-Fi Wind Down Wednesday. We're discussing Kinning. Kinning, which is currently in the book vending machines, both in Seattle, so Northwest African American Museum and Distant Worlds Coffee, and coming soon to chapter 510. But let's start, like, Nisi, it doesn't have to be an introduction, but tell us how you're feeling in the moment, what you're grateful for today.
Well, you say that because you know that I hate doing introductions. And the reason I hate them is because I have lived a long life and I have so many things that I could say and I always forget some of them. But I live in Seattle. I have a cat. I've written a lot of books, a lot of short stories. Many people love them. Other people are like, what is this? So yeah. And I teach and I don't know. See, I ran out of stuff. I won some awards. I remember that.
You won some awards and nominations, and all of that is very exciting. I'll focus on the books you've written, mostly because I'm a bookseller. So we know that Nisi has written, and I have a focus on the ones that Sister Sci-Fi celebrates, and there are ones beyond that. So my list may not be complete. It probably won't be complete.
Right.
Fair, Kinning, Speculation. There's Filter House, Walk Like a Man, Fruiting Bodies.
Yeah, our fruiting bodies, actually.
And there's a lot more. But yes,
yeah.
If this is a doctoral defense, I would have failed. But fortunately, it's not. It's a wind down Wednesday on Instagram. So, anything else any other publications or short stories or books that you'd like to add?
There's the ones that I've edited rather than written. So New Sons 2. There's Stories for Chip, which is for in honor of Samuel R. Delaney. There's I co-edited that with Bill Campbell, and I co-edited Strange Matings, which was in honor of Octavia Butler. I co-edited that with Rebecca Holden, an actual Becky, yes. And yeah. And then there's Wisconsin Chronicles, Writing and Racial Identity. Yeah.
Yes. And then Erica says, Nisi, you also have an upcoming Black feminism book that you did the forward for.
Wait, what was that? No, I'm losing track. See, I did a forward for a Nalo Hopkinson short story collection. That was Jamaica Ginger and Other Concoctions, but that's her book. I only had one story I wrote in there with her. So
okay. So well, and you're part of the Emerging Black Voices panel, which I'm assuming is part of Schaumburg Comic-Con?
I don't know. Okay.
All right. Erica, you have to me linking. Yeah. There's something else I was going to say. But it's gone. Yes, what were you about to say?
Oh, I remembered another short story collection called Something More and More.
Something more.
Yeah, that's all my stories. Yeah.
Yay! I think I was gonna start dropping links in the chat, and then I got distracted. So, But yes, awesome, awesome, awesome. So how did so there were several in-person events for the folks who weren't there who are watching this. How did that feel? So there were kidding events at the Seattle Public Library, the Northwest African American Museum,
And Distant Worlds.
Distant, Distant Worlds Coffee, and was there the and there's something else not in the tour, but that's later. That hasn't happened yet. Yeah, how did the weekend feel? To my understanding.
So it was great. The one at the library, the questions were asked by Tom Foster, who is a professor of English, and I've been in a book discussion group with him and Ted Chang for a few years. So yeah, we're used to being smart at each other. And he had some good questions, I thought. And you had some great questions at the Northwest African American Museum. There were so many people there that had not read science fiction before. I was impressed that they were like there, to see us. Wow. Yeah, and then the Distant Worlds crowd, there were a bunch of my old pals there, a bunch of people who I know who live in the north end of town. That was good.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think that was about all three. The questions were different. We got into like each, it's a word, hopefully I'm pronouncing correctly, interlocutor brought in like their lived perspectives and different viewpoints on Everfair and Kenning. So that was, I enjoyed it. And I enjoyed, like, it was really good to immerse myself in your work and with a focus on Everfair and Kenning over the course of a couple of days, right?
Yeah,
like, yeah,
a lot of focus on Everfair. I was surprised. Yeah.
I mean, why was that surprising?
Because like that was like 8 years ago that came out. What I thought that people had talked that to death, basically.
You're like, I've talked it to death. Like, what the fuck? I think, like, for me, before I read Kenning, I went back and read and listened to Everfair. And it's kind of like the foundation. So like reading Kenning like made me want to like revisit stuff in Everfair. And so yeah, so it's yeah. So I couldn't like yeah. I think it was like if we're gonna talk about Kenning, then yeah, there should be some conversation about Everfair. But today we can focus mostly on Kenning. Because if you wanted to have the back conversation, then you could have come to one of the in-person events. For Seattle, if you go to the Sistah Scifi, for the Seattle Public Library event, if you go to the Sistah Scifi feed, you'll see that video content. It's not the best video because I was a little far back, but you can hear the conversation. So, yeah. And it's hard because I'm like I'll ask the questions and you're like, you already asked me that, but I'll ask you again. It's different eyes this time. So I'll first start with I'll ask because I asked this question verbatim in Seattle. When I read Everfair and finished with it, I felt pretty complete in the ending. And I wasn't, as a reader, expecting a sequel. So what was the journey to the sequel for Everfair and Kenning in particular?
So every time, even if you ask the same question, you're going to get a different answer because, time has passed and I've saw it and I've, eaten something different for breakfast. I don't know. But what was it that led me to want to write a sequel? I really wanted to know what was going to happen with certain characters, and I really wanted to know what was going to happen in the world, because I had made just the slightest of changes in Everfair, but we veered off from the course of history that we know in this timeline. We veered off by like maybe 5 degrees, but if you keep going 5 degrees away from a line, you get further and further diverging from that line. So I wanted to know how things would work out, and the way to find out that sort of stuff for me is to write about it.
So this is something I didn't have a perspective on until this weekend, that so many of the characters were based on real life historical people. I guess that's when we'll go back to Everfair. So starting with Everfair. What? Because I was like, oh, that's really cool.
Well, yeah, there were certain characters that I, had wanted to write about for a long time, because I love them so much. I don't know that you can tell that I love, like, for instance, the H.G. Wells and George Bernard Shaw, because the character that's based on them, well, we'll just say you can't tell. But you can tell that I love the character that Lisette is based on. She's based on Colette, the author. So yeah, I love them so dearly I had to write about them. But not every one of them. Not all of the characters in both the books, like Fuendi, or Lady Fuendi, as she becomes in Kinning, because she marries a lord. Lady Fuendi was not based on any historical figure. Tink was not. Ilunga was not. But Queen Josina is, and yeah, Daisy is. A few of them are.
Yeah, it was really exciting. I mean, one, like Lisette being based off of Colette, who's a French, woman writer of the same time period, was really exciting for me because I don't think I realized that. But I was particularly excited, like Queen Josina being married after. I think in Distant Worlds you said a half Portuguese, half
Angolan. Yeah. The name of the historical figure is Maria Fonseca, and she was a wife of a king. She was a queen, and she was the daughter of a European, a Portuguese, and an Angolan, and the granddaughter of a very high chief of a bunch of different peoples in that what we now call Angola. Tipu Tib was the one that she sprang from his loins.
I love it. This is also a fair question that just sprung into my head. Queen Josina identifies Lisette as a sister pretty early in like the two of them connecting, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, as a reader, it felt really natural, like, oh yeah, of course. But it was one of the things, and you can tell me if my impression is wrong, that Queen Josina did, identifying Lisette as a sister, like from a place of real of authenticity and not political maneuvering, which is kind of different for Queen Josina's character. Did I read?
It's all political maneuvering. What's inauthentic about political maneuvering? If you're Queen Josina, I mean, she was born to it. You're soaking in it, basically. She's that is just her natural habitat, her what she lives and breathes. So yes, it was authentic, but yes, it was also politically motivated. And the thing is, she does it for a couple of different reasons. Because they are both mixed race people, and because they are both, as far as Queen Josina is concerned, devotees of Oshun, who is not an Angolan deity, but Josina has adopted her. And Oshun is the goddess of beauty and knowledge and luxury and a bunch of other really cool stuff, creativity. So it was kind of a compliment that she saw Lisette as one of the daughters of Oshun.
Great. And it also speaks to Queen Josina that it continues in Kinning being very international, if not global, and constantly evolving when it comes to her practices of religion, of spirituality, of magic, of healing, which we see a lot of in the book. And I felt like we saw a lot of.
Yeah, that is one of her characteristics, is that as far as she's concerned, the whole world is hers, and so if she decides that she likes something from a part of the continent that's like several thousand miles away, then she takes it. It's hers.
Mm-hmm. So this is also a question asked on Saturday. I'll probably the historical figures was actually a question that Katya asked you on Sunday, so I brought that one. But for my question, how do your religious practices influence what we saw in both Everfair and Kinning?
Well, they influence it quite a lot, and probably in ways that I'm not even aware of. For starters, my whole writing practice revolves around the fact that I set up altars every time I write. And then there's the idea that when you become creative, you're divine. You're definitely, you're being a goddess yourself, or a god yourself. And then there's the idea that everything is alive and everything is dynamic and everything is related. Everything being related, that probably came through pretty clearly in Kinning. Yeah.
I can see that. And I loved when you're being creative, you're being divine. Like I feel like that's a mantra. That's exciting. So speaking of, there is, I know I didn't ask you to read, so I'm not going to ask you to read it. I'm looking for the page number where it's in like chapter 0. Where we're looking, you have a paragraph that talks about the power of dreams. Is it paragraph 0? Or is it before that? No, it's before chapter 0. Sorry.
There are chapters before chapter 0, y'all.
Yes. Or maybe it's not a chapter. It's like a. Where is this?
Is it in the part of the imaginary chapter is called Beyond Possibility?
Yes. And there's a paragraph or two discussing like what is the power of dreams. I'm holding a different copy of the book than the one that I read
Oh,
because
do you have the ARC? Because that's way different. Uh-oh.
Yeah, no, I have a finished
Okay.
copy, but it's just not the copy that I read. So, because in the copy I read, it's like this is the page number, and this is, and this is what it was referring to. Uh, this is going to drive me absolutely insane to no end. Okay, I'm gonna have to let that go. But I loved that paragraph, and I loved its description of the power of dreams. And I'll have to just make a social media post about it.
Okay.
Oh, and there's so if you have a question, please feel free to drop it in the chat. So I was looking at my copy of the book. So if you have a question, just drop the question in the chat. Oh, I was so confused. Are there balloons in the next book? And I was like, what are you talking about? But we're talking about the air canoes. I'm assuming that's what you mean. Blockchain Steve. So the answer is yes, there are air canoes in the next book. But for me, I guess the question is, tell us about if you feel comfortable, like the development of air canoes in Everfair that continues on into Kenning.
So air canoes start out as really like just these canoes, deckless boats that are lifted by barkcloth balloons, barkcloth lined with rubber, so that it keeps the air in, and then as time goes on, they get more involved, so that there's a big battle, at which point you can tell that there is a deck over the body of the canoe, and then to get more height, it becomes possible to have closed spaces, like the gondola is actually sealed off so that they can go up to where the air is a lot thinner. And yeah, in Kinning, they've retrofitted some of the air canoes. I have on my website, nisishawl.com, there's a whole page that talks about when certain air canoes were made and when they were retrofitted. The one that Tink and Ilunga are flying around on, that was specially created for them, has a sort of a little basement to the gondola. That's where all the steering takes place. There's like a sort of a flight deck, but it's below. It hangs off the bottom of the gondola. The Jumu, it's called, that air canoe, and Tink designed that. So yeah, they keep getting better. They keep evolving.
Yeah, which I'm looking for I will drop the link to your website in the chat. And I always imagine them as, yeah. Because somebody was like, yeah, a hot air balloon, and you're like, no, they're directional. So I always imagine them as the kind of like these blimp with the basket. Maybe not as big as a balloon, but yeah, I loved reading about that technology.
Yeah, they're more like dirigibles, which, are elongated, cigar-shaped kind of things.
Got it. Okay. Hey, let me drop in the link to the chat for people who want to read more. And then we'll have a post about dirigibles later on. So I'll ask the question, but at the core of kinning, we have a lot happening, but it'll be different than last time. Like keep members of Everfair, not all of them, but some of them, now traveling the world and spreading these empathy-inducing mycelium via various different ways. And when I read that, I'm like, yes, I'm definitely here for this empathy-inducing mycelium, but there's also the question of consent. And when I asked you that on Saturday, I was like, I loved your response. So I'm asking you that question. And so how did you think about consent in this writing of?
Well, it was a struggle to think about consent. It was a really thorny issue because some of the characters were like really gung-ho about it. It's like, yes, dang it, everybody's going to be empathetic and we're going to make them that way. But others were, and some of my readers were thinking, that's kind of villainous. You're actually taking over people's minds and making them feel a certain way, think a certain way. That's wrong. So Ilunga, who people saw as a villain because she wanted to lay empathy on everybody, had to really reel that back, pull back on that, and work on presenting it to people as a choice. And then by the end of kinning, or near the end, you can see that there are certain people who do not want to be infected this way, do not want to be inoculated with this empathy. They say, we'll help you with your revolution, but we don't care if this gives us superpowers. We're not doing it because it breaks down the barrier between myself and yourself. So there were people who refused, or people who were like, I'm going to wait and see. And that was how it had to work out. And that was, I thought, pretty realistic.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Some people just joined. So just as a recap, we are discussing Kinning by Nisi Shawl. Kinning is the sequel to Everfair. And the author, Nisi Shaw, is here with us today answering questions. So if you've read either Kinning or Everfair and have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Also, if you've read other works by Nisi Shaw and have questions, feel free to drop those in the chat and we'll bring them into the conversation. Yay, Diary of a Firebird. I think you'll enjoy Kinning. So going back to the question you thought I was going to ask. So there's this empathy-inducing spores, and it helps people build, I'm going to use this, super family-like structures, which are called cores.
Called cores, yeah. Cores are formed from by 3 to 6 people who get together, and often, but not always, they receive the empathy-inducing spirit medicine, it's called, at the same time. They share a story, which is sort of their meta identity, and they have a discrete, separate mission that they're on as a group. Then within each core, there is someone called a node, who can have the same sort of links with other cores that they have within the core. So they sort of hook up with other nodes in other cores and have this super empathy going. Within the core, it's like you're an old married couple, kind of, you finish each other's sentences. You can't read each other's minds, but you feel each other's feelings, understand what the other person is going through to a very deep degree.
So this
Why not?
Okay, good.
I was just going to say, why not? Why wouldn't it be that way?
Like it should be that way in real life.
Yeah, I mean, we've all had those experiences with, maybe one person. So how about with like 4 others, 5 others?
Yeah, I mean, like, no. So if somebody was like, Isis, do you want to take this empathy-inducing spore and be deeply bonded with like up to 5 other people? My answer would be yes. I mean, I would have to like pick these 5 other people. I'm not trying to like make you emotionally unstable. I'm not trying to be that deep into your emotions, but that's a whole nother thing. So yeah, so that's exciting, especially like people with very different lived experience, but also like but philosophically very compatible. Um, that's the question I was gonna ask. And so like the inducement of empathy or like empathy as an ability brings me to the question, like I know the answer, but like what book do you feel that Kenning and or Everfair is in conversation with?
Well, Kinning for sure with Parable of the Sower because of the empathy. Octavia Butler's novel Parable of the Sower has a protagonist who, because of a drug that her mother took while the mother was pregnant with the protagonist, because of that, she believes that she can feel what other people are feeling, which in Octavia's book is not such a good thing, if you feel what someone else is feeling and you shoot them, you better shoot to kill, because otherwise you're walking around, they're wounded, but you're wounded too. So it's a vulnerability more than a superpower. But in my book, it is more of a superpower. People have the ability to tell when someone is lying to them. They understand the emotional undercurrents of what someone is saying. So it's very helpful.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And with the different movements, right? The May, I can be very bad with dates, so let me know if the May 4th movement and etc. There is the propagation of this empathy-inducing spirit medicine, but also like real discussion on like reducing human society's tendency towards hierarchy, which also feels like in conversation with Don, I can't remember, I think it was Don in the Exogenesis series, where it's like the aliens are like, the problem with humanity is that y'all are smart and y'all really like hierarchy, and that's probably gonna cause your extinction.
Yes, and that was an observation that Octavia made over and over again, is that if we were just intelligent or if we were just hierarchical, those would be fine. But the combination of the two can be deadly. So because this is put out by people who want a revolution to succeed, who want socialism and equality everywhere, they're focused on getting rid of our deep love of hierarchy. And I would say that it's more what they do that gets rid of hierarchy than the spirit medicine itself. I'd say the spirit medicine is hierarchy agnostic. It can reinforce hierarchy, as one of its administrators knows for sure. Ilunga at one point decides that she's not going to add a man to a corps where his mistress, he's her servant, is in. She doesn't want them in the same corps because their relationship of the power dynamic could carry over. So she knows that doesn't wipe it out, and she does what she can to counteract it.
I like that. I like that. Sometimes we discuss stuff in the book, and I was like, oh, I didn't like. I missed that as a reader, and so it's very insightful for me to discuss it with you. So like that conversation about Ilunga, I read Everfair twice and missed both times that like Queen Josina was of mixed cultural heritage. I was like, oh, how did I miss that? Like both times. So that was insightful to me. What I also like really got to drill on this weekend is the optimism of Kinning but both Kinning and Everfair. So Everfair, you have the society coming together to create a utopia. It's not perfect, but the idea is a utopia. And then in Kinning, it's the core is like we have this empathy-inducing spirit medicine that deepens connection, right? Which a lot of the time science fiction can be very, and it's the end of the world, and there's zombies, or there's a terrible pandemic. It's just like it's bad. But this is actually, these books, like the society is not perfect, but we're striving towards healing, which we don't see a lot in science fiction. Can you describe your source of optimism and how you make decisions to bring that into your work?
So when we're living in such bleak times, we really need to escape into this kind of optimistic fiction, in my opinion. So I make a very deliberate choice to go for the optimism. Also, as a Black person, I have been living in more of a dystopia than most other kinds of people. And I'm just tired of it. I want to do something else. I need to do something else. And science fiction is a great way to get to do that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I appreciate that. And yeah, and it's exciting, right? Because sometimes I read science fiction despite the trauma-inducing situations it puts me in. Like I'm gonna read this. I won't name any names, but Clay's art really set on my heart for a long time. So
yeah.
So I really appreciate the optimism. And a lot of your work, but particularly in it, because I also think of, I'm gonna get it right this time. 2023, A Mermaid As You Turn to Be, where it's not perfect, but it's in America where Black people get reparations, which is kind of like, it was problematic, but it was like there was some hope in that. It was not without its problems, but okay. So the ending for Kinning is a bit open-ended. So I'm hoping there's, unlike with Everfair, where it's like, oh, I feel kind of good. Like I'm not expecting more. In Kinning, I'm like, my hope is that there's more. There's a book 3.
Well, I do have to say that I've talked with like my agent and my editor, and in a way, I'm talking about a trilogy here, right? There's Everfair, there's Kinning, And the next book that I want to write set in this world is called Trulies, Trulies, Trulies. So what I've been telling people in the backside, the back end, excuse me, of publishing, is that Everfair could be a standalone, but Kinning and Trulies are two halves of the same book. So there's like a standalone and a duology, but we'll call them a trilogy because that's how publishing likes to look at stuff like that.
Okay, that's exciting.
I think Blockchain Steve is laughing at me calling something the backside of publishing.
Yeah. I was like, I'm here for it. I felt what you were saying. Oh, yeah, 3 minutes. I always ask this question, or I ask this question a lot. What's a question that you wish I would have asked about Everfair and or Kinning or your writing process in general?
I don't know about that, but I have a question for you, which is like, yes, you're never supposed to look at reviews, but I do. I don't respond to them because that would be unprofessional. But I saw a review that said that they didn't like Kinning because it was too existential. I'm like, what are you talking about? What is this book existential? Could you tell me, please? What is existential about it?
I'm like, what is existential?
What?
So when I read reviews like that, like this book is too existential, this book is too weird, this book is too like there are too many spaceships. There's too much. Like, well, I don't know. And I'm like, oh, what I take is that like you are not in the mindset for whatever reason to read this book, right? And that's that's like people who read a lot of like science fiction and fantasy like are used to like if you read a book and there's no disorientation, then it's probably not science fiction and fantasy. So I think science fiction and fantasy readers are used to like reading and having philosophical questions. You're like dealing with big themes and not just being like hand fed every step in the plot. And I'm not just I'm not disparaging people. I'm just like it's just a different mindset, right?
Yeah.
So I think about So I would say that Everfair and Kinning forces the reader to think about the present, how they're moving in the present, like how like the reader's reacting to like the different characters, like what is trust, what is connection, what does it look like to see Tink and Balloon have this not international movement, right?
Mm-hmm.
With this technology and use it. Like sometimes you agree and sometimes you don't, right? And how do they think about like their comrades in arms? Like, how do we think about River Bailey? Like, and how she moves it? Oh yeah, River Bailey is another historical inspired character. So yeah, like if you're reading Kinning and not thinking about the big questions of humanity, then you may not, as a reader, you may not have gotten the full experience.
Okay.
Yeah. So I know I ramble, but that's my response.
Yeah, that's what I would. I did kind of wonder sometimes, do these people ever read science fiction? Because a lot of times with science fiction, we're used to wondering about very basic things, like what is going on? Who is that person? Where did they come from? We wonder about them a lot longer than people who read mainstream stuff. So I wondered, Do you even read this stuff normally? Because you seem very impatient for me to tell you everything that happened all at once.
Yeah. And so so I have a couple different ways where I use reviews, right? Like me personally as a bookseller, right? Like is so the first one is the book generating conversation. So in that regard, they'll be polarizing. Like there'll be a lot of like, oh my God, I love this, and oh my like, and then like I didn't get it, right? Which is a good thing, right? Because that's a book that's gonna have a conversation. And there are books that like most of the people who took time to review it liked it, and that's also helps. And so ultimately for me, I'm excited about books that like I know like if I give it to most people they'll like it, but then also books where like there will be a debate, right? So
Yeah.
like um I really like An Unkindness of Ghost. And I know An Unkindness of Ghost is not for everybody for a lot of different reasons, right?
Mhm.
But there's like a reason for that, right? And I think it's will the conversation continue? Because I think when I think about books and their initial reception, I think I was on the Wikipedia review for like Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, and it got ripped apart, right? Like people were like, "This is," and we still talk about it today because it facilitated a conversation. Anyway,
Yeah.
I ramble. I'm stopping. I'm not used to getting questions. So yeah.
Anybody got any questions?
I don't see anything in the chat.
Nope, me neither. I saw
Yeah.
Blockchain Steve said that it was a fun adventure, so that's cool. I'm glad.
Yay.
Because some people were like, what happened? It is a weird book, okay? It's just weird. It's just weird.
Which and if you're looking for weird, it's great. I think we talked about that at NAM. You're like, it's a weird book. And I was like, no, that seems normal to me. And I was like, oh, that's because I'm pretty weird. So I'm here for it. So yeah, I'm excited. I enjoyed reading Kinning. I'm excited for Truly's. And yes, I appreciate your craft. I appreciate you taking time to discuss Kinning and Everfair again with me today. Yeah, yeah, that's what I got.
Well, I hope you find that passage about dreams, man.
I will, and I'll post it. Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, now the questions are coming. Okay. So this question is for you, Nisi. Who are your favorite Afrofuturist, African futurist books and why? What are your favorite Afrofuturist, African futurist books and why?
Okay.
Oh, and then Pip Gross has I'll read all three and then you can prioritize what you want to respond to. What was your criteria for selecting stories in New Sons and New Sons 2, the New Sons anthologies? And then Krishna, I came in late, not sure, quite sure what y'all have discussed, and what y'all are reading explicitly for Black History Month. At Sister Sci-Fi, every month is Black Future Month, so that's the answer to that. Whatever we're reading is for Black History Month and Black History Month. But today we're discussing Nisi Shaw, Everfair, which is the sequel to Kitty. Okay. So, yes.
Kinning is the sequel to Everfair.
Yes. Sorry. Sometimes I repeat that. Yeah.
So, my favorite Afrofuturist writer probably is Chip Delaney, Samuel R. Delaney. And specifically, I love Empire Star by Delaney because it just deals very forthrightly, in a science fictional way, but very forthrightly with the issue of slavery and what it does to the enslaved and what it does to the enslavers. And it's beautiful. and it has so many other rich treasures hidden within its very short reach. I do not recommend starting out with Dahlgren because that one is a huge, complicated, messy book. But Empire Star, my favorite of the Delaney's. African Futurist, I would have to say, well, Nnedi Okorafor's beautiful, oh God, now I can't remember.
What was the overall plot?
Who Fears Death?
Yes, that's one of my favorites.
Yeah. Yeah, because I dreamt about it for weeks afterwards. And it is set in the future, but it also includes fantastic elements, and I love that about her work, that she does things that are, you know, sort of mashups of all of that. So yeah, I would say Who Fears Death. Yeah. As far as criteria for inclusion in New Sons and New Sons 2, I wanted stories that made me wonder about them after they ended. I wanted stories that didn't just have neat cutoffs, you know, all the threads tied up. And I wanted stories that made me curious and made me want more. Of course, they had to, I was also looking for like variety. I wanted short stories of very different lengths. I wanted genres, you know, science fiction, fantasy, horror, mashups of all of the above. And stories that just made the hair rise up on the back of my neck, stories that made me want to shove them at other people, because that's what I was doing with the two anthologies. And there were other qualities like, you know, is this funny? It is to me. Is it funny to y'all? Things like that I was looking for as well.
Yeah. I just want to, Vanessa, who is one of my contacts at one of the publishers, they joined, so I just want to say hi to them. I'll also drop in the link for New Sons. I think, I don't know if one is still still available. So if you got a copy of the first New Sons, treasure it. But I'll drop a link to New Sons 2 in the chat. One of my partners got me, like, it was Babel and Empire Star is like a bind up. And I started reading Babel, and he's like, "You're supposed to read." They were like, "You're supposed to read Empire Star," and I was like, "Oh, I messed that up." So now I have to go back and read Empire Star. So, and I'm excited about that.
It's really a novella length book, so yeah, it's, you know, easy, short read.
Yes. I'm excited about that. Because I'm here for Babel 17, and I'll finish it, and I was like, "Oh, this is
It's good.
I'm here for the different, and it's very different." Yay! This is a pleasure. I also like dropping in for New Sons too. I was like, I need to order more inventory, and I'm excited to do that. So yeah, I'm grateful for your work. I'm excited for Truly's, but no pressure, because you're like, I just put it Kinning out in the world, and thank you for that gift. So before I let you go, what else are you working on? Oh, I really have to let you go.
Well, I pretty much have finished the edits for the Day and Night books of Mardu Fox, which is a beat era fantasy, and you know, there's a whole setup with like Jack Kerouac had a black girlfriend, and he fictionalized her, and this is my response, because she was a writer. a really good writer. So then I've got a short story coming out sometime, I think, in May uh, from Nightmare Magazine, called Over a Long Time Ago. I've put a bunch of stories together that were all about this interstellar prison colony that's called Making Amends, and that should be coming out soon. And I'm about to do final edits on a story called The Gray and the Green about, how would I say this? It's about how water preservation and retention and recycling can be better and can change how people relate to each other. Yeah, those are the things. Oh, are we done? I think we're done. Bye. Oh yeah, we're done. Bye for now. Thanks for showing up.